Tony. We recently lost our adult son who was divorced and had one minor child. Little did we know that when we went to settle his estate, he had left his 401k to his estate. Will this cause any tax problems? And the answer you're getting ready to see is yes. But let me remind you of something. What I'm about to show you, I've shared this before. Folks, please pay close attention to this because this is a very simple thing you can do, but you have to understand the law and what happens to certain assets at death. So if you would, Derek, if you can throw up this graphic. I've used this for years. In fact, back in the 80s, when I was trained in the art of estate planning, back then you could only pass $600,000 without falling into all these estate taxes. I would go out and show this to business owners, landowners, people who had more than $600,000. And it basically sums up this way. Of all the assets you have, there's only 4 ways to own property. It can be solely in your name. You can have it jointly held with survivorship rights. It can be in a trust or contract. And of course, it can be assets that name a beneficiary. Now let's focus on beneficiary a minute. This would be assets like your 401k. It has a named beneficiary where you can name people in terms of who's going to get what when you die. Now 401k, 403b, TSP, 457. Annuities go by beneficiary. There are a whole host of things that go by beneficiary. So in many cases, the last gentleman that just asked this question, what happened was the 401k beneficiary, which should have been named to his child or someone, you want a named beneficiary on those folks, he did not do that. He named his estate. So let's see what happens here. So when you do that, notice all of those assets now are probatable. When you name an estate as your beneficiary, which this gentleman did on his 401k, it now goes through the will, which goes to the estate, which is now probate. Now, what would happen on these other 3 assets? There is no probate because an asset which jointly held goes to the survivor trust. Many of you are rushing out and getting living trust. They're fine, don't get me wrong, but what they're trying to do is avoid probate. And then finally, assets by beneficiary. Again, all of your retirement accounts, annuities, life insurance, all 3 of those assets, listen, bypass probate. So in this case, what happened was all this gentleman had to do, since it would pass by beneficiary, is name a child or another person, and it would have totally avoided probate. But since this 401k went into the estate, guess what happened? Well, the estate has its own tax bracket. In fact, Aaron, throw this up full screen. See this tax bracket creep, folks? It's even worse for estates. So because this money had never been taxed, and I'll just change the names to protect the innocent, let's say it's $300,000, the $300,000 was payable to the estate, and immediately those taxes had to be paid at the estate tax rate. So the net of that's probably going to be about $200,000 that hopefully will go to his child. So the moral to the story, folks, you have to understand something. This is the way assets are going to pass. If you have assets spread all over God's creation, or maybe you have lost a child or something has changed in your situation, you've got to get these beneficiaries on your retirement accounts up to date, because otherwise you could be making a terrible mistake. It's a simple solution, something we help our clients with all the time, but if you don't get these done accurately or update them, it can create huge problems. And maybe that's you right now. Maybe you're sitting here thinking about all of your planning, that you don't have a plan, that you don't have someone experienced in both estate planning and retirement planning. Well, let's talk. And we've made this so easy to do. We call it the 10-minute free fiduciary phone call. And all you do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on that Let's Get Started button, and we'll arrange that phone call so you and I can talk right away. As usual, internet may not be your thing. No problem. Call us 24/7. That number is 877-499-9255.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like, check out these other clips and be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button for more videos.